He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. Hammered again. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. You will be familiar with the many news outlets and newspapers and media publications that have given With Love Meghan a real good shoeing. They've ridiculed it, they've taken the piss out of it, they've highlighted its narcissistic and banal nature. We've seen the various aspects that demonstrate that it's more about rearranging things than actually cooking, that it is an exercise in rearranging bits and pieces of food and then calling your mates round to tell you how much they all love you and how wonderful you are. But I thought it would be useful to look at a couple of further reviews to demonstrate that it isn't the usual suspects that have simply all lined up to pan this programme, but that it is a near universal criticism which tends to tell you something, and that criticism has come from quarters that you might not ordinarily expect, which demonstrates that not only is this show completely fucking useless, but also how this one's wife has got a real problem in terms of so many outlets all reaching the same conclusion, all representing a massive threat to her control. The first place that I'm going to go to is the San Francisco Chronicle, which ordinarily you would think, being liberal-leaning, would be more supportive of this one's wife. It's certainly not known for being critical of this one's wife or Harry. And their arts and culture columnist, Tony Bravo, leads with the headline, "With Love Meghan on Netflix has all the entertainment value of a hostage video." Not the most auspicious of starts. Let's learn more about what Mr. Bravo, who presumably isn't shouting bravo, has to write. About 40 seconds into watching this one's wife harvest honey on her new Netflix lifestyle series With Love Meghan, my husband and I grimaced. The former Suits actor and wife of Prince Harry looked about as comfortable amid the hives of their Monty shitshow estate as she did talking about the couple's break from the British royal family in the couple's 2021 interview with Oprah, albeit with less vigour. If this was her best attempt at relatability, warmth, and charm, we were in trouble. Now, pausing there. Here you have a journalist with no axe to grind who is able to see immediately that if this was an attempt at relatability, warmth, and charm, it had failed, i.e., he can see through her. This one's wife's professional beekeeper scrapped honeycombs as she supervised in her influencer chic white ensemble and veiled hat, whispering to him about her shock at the short lifespan of bees and her plans for the honey and wax. Oh, the basic girl activities she had planned to do with her houseguest, more on those later, that she talks about with all the excitement of someone on half a Valium trying not to wake a baby in the next room. By the time this one's wife moved inside to what I assume was one of the estate's guest houses or her home television crafting studio, so relatable, to assemble bath salts in a jar, we were groaning. It wasn't just the pedestrian activity itself. She added essential oils and some pink salt to a jar, groundbreaking. It was the total lack of engagement, charisma, and entertainment value. The show was such a transparent knockoff, pastiche of other more successful lifestyle shows by Martha Stewart and Ina Garten that it made this one's wife, the Duchess of Sussex, as she's billed in the show's credits, look even more aloof and uncomfortable in comparison. Pausing there. Because this one's wife has no emotional empathy, she isn't able to behave in a genuine way. Some narcissists are very good at conning you into believing they're just like you. But this one's wife struggles in that regard because of her mid-range narcissism and the fact that her overexposure means that we get treated to the various cracks in her facade. Again, the fact is that not only does she lack the ability to come across as relatable, but because she engages in such blatant character trait acquisition, and she does it in relation to people who are much better at what they do than what she does, it makes it all the more obvious by comparison. Between the awkward dialogue, bad musical choices, and dead shark look in this one's wife's eyes for most of the show, you wonder if there was anyone involved with the production who had the power to say to her, "This really isn't your best work, sis." I've seen hostage videos with more entertainment value. I announced to my husband after this one's wife poured store-bought pretzels into a canister and tied a bow around it. The rest of the episode consisted of this one's wife and her houseguest, her suits makeup artist Daniel Martin, making a pasta dish, brewing the least English tea possible, it was twigs and leaves steeped in a glass pot, and eventually gazing out at the mountain view as they ate their honey cake. I can't speak to Martin's skills as a makeup artist, although this one's wife always looks very dewy, but he is not an ideal television show guest. He is possibly the one person more boring than this one's wife. Ooh, and he spends much of the episode repeating what this one's wife says like a parrot. He joins in on her cooking and crafting with all of the enthusiasm of a person still under the effects of surgical anesthesia. Ouch. The poor guy just wanted a weekend away. Now his friend is forcing him to make candles. Maybe Martin was supposed to make this one's wife sparkle by comparison. Although they professed to have known each other for years, the pair had zero chemistry. But based on With Love, Meghan, it's hard to imagine that this one's wife would spark with anyone in this format. And again, this reviewer identifies the fact that she is inherently devoid of charisma, which is exacerbated by the fact that she has no emotional empathy. This one's wife wanks on about connectivity and being connected on a daily basis, yet she has none with people because of her narcissism and her absence of emotional empathy. Certain narcissists flow with charisma. This one's wife does not. The reviewer states I only made it through the first episode. Not even the promise of Bay Area restaurant legend Alice Waters as a guest later in the season could entice me to spend any more time in the Duchess's craft cottage. The craft cottage is where joy goes to die. I hope Waters made it out okay. The elephant in the room is, of course, this one's wife's husband. She talks about her two children in vague, uninteresting terms, but Harry is a non-presence. My husband and I wondered whether he would show up at the end of the episode, like Garton's husband Geoffrey on her various shows, to sample the pasta and cake. The show was so boring, I kept hoping he'd wander on the set in his bathrobe and shorts like the dude from The Big Lebowski, with the joint in one hand and the television remote in the other. "Sup, Megs, you doing your Netflix thing today?" I imagined him saying before sneaking out of the frame. In an era of peak cringe celebrity lifestyle and reality shows, Alec and Hilaria Baldwin's new series The Baldwins and all the programming on Bravo are prime examples. With Love, Meghan isn't even so bad it's good enough to hate watch. So be warned. If this one's wife ever invites you down to Monty Shit Show for the weekend, she will make you do activities. The only thing I can imagine more painful than watching her show. So that's Tony Bravo, writing for the San Francisco Chronicle, which you might think would be somewhat supportive of what this one's wife is doing, but no. Absolutely pans it. Sarcastic, entertaining, of course, far more entertaining than this one's wife, and highlights her lack of relatability, the absence of charisma, and the simple fact that it's a boring show. Another hammering comes from Emily Bootle, who's the cultural writer for the I paper. And I thought I would include this because she comes from a position of perhaps almost looking at things in a more balanced way, which you'll understand as I detail with you what she has to write. In case you hadn't heard by now, this one's wife's new Netflix series, With Love, Meghan, is bad. Really bad. Light, airy, and beige. It involves watching the Duchess of Sussex make cakes and candles and personalised labels and balloon arches and pour crunchy snacks from plastic bags into different, more aesthetically pleasing plastic bags. She say things are beautiful about 15 times an hour. It is a volcano spewing sycophancy. It is a festival of inanity. It is, above all, pointless, boring, and self-indulgent. Zinger after zinger there. Now here's the interesting part. Those of us who might previously have defended This One's Wife, particularly after she was subjected to the racist and misogynistic ravages of the British media, now have no choice but to admit that as much as she was the victim of a vicious campaign, and of course, it very much depends on what side of the fence you sit as to whether you believe there was such a campaign, this writer does, she states, "This One's Wife also comes off here as supremely annoying and monstrously narcissistic. At times, it's difficult to believe that the programme isn't satire." So here we have somebody that believes that This One's Wife has been hard done to by the British press. Nevertheless, being supportive in that regard, it doesn't colour her view so much as to believe that this is decent television, that she sees it as pointless, boring and self-indulgent, that it's supremely annoying, that This One's Wife is supremely annoying and monstrously narcissistic. But this isn't just a failure for This One's Wife or even for her and Prince Harry's ill-fated media company, Archwell Productions. Following the terrible reception of their other 3 Netflix shows, this is surely the final nail in the coffin of the Sussexes' on-screen career. This is a failure for millennial culture. It is so clearly universally ridiculous that we can only conclude that the long-anticipated vibe shift is complete. The oatmeal tablescaping mason jar side hustle millennial dream has well and truly died. So in effect, and I'm not going to read you more of the comparison in that regard, but quite simply this journalist is saying not only is This One's Wife show awful, but she's basically killed off the millennial dream. She continues, perhaps the most important element of With Love Meghan is personal brand, from the baskets in which she collects fresh herbs to the strings she uses to tie her hand-labelled packs of guest goodies. Everything has a consistent essence. She is surrounded by products that reflect who she is. This One's Wife has always been interested in lifestyle. She had a blog, The Tig, while she was still acting in Suits. But this is not really a show about any specific element of lifestyle. It's about cooking, sure, but also hosting and decorating, but mainly just This One's Wife being herself in the most aspirational way possible. Again, it's all about her. Because that's the most millennial thing of all. This One's Wife is obsessed with the idea that there's no fuss, that none of it has to be perfect or expensive, to which when you watch the programme you simply think, ha 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 ha, when in reality there is fuss and it very much does have to be perfect, demonstrating of course the hypocrisy and contrarian nature of This One's Wife. It is laughable that her plate of crudités and dips, complete with edible flowers arranged so artfully that it could be a Liberty print, is presented to her friends as imperfect. It has the air of that one friend who constantly says they haven't done any revision and then proceeds to get 14 A's. In other words, this is the narcissist, of course, demonstrating false humility by going, oh, it's not perfect, so that you will go, oh, but it is, so that you then demonstrate that you're under control. And, of course, that you provide her with positive fuel. More revealingly, everything should be relaxed. The Californian breeze is streaming through the windows, the light is beautiful, the kitchen is beautiful. This One's Wife is beautiful. Not to mention the fact that all the events she's preparing for are literally made up. She and Mindy Kaling spend hours making ladybug crostini for a pretend children's party, which they then pretend to attend so that they can speculate on what the imaginary guests might think. Yet everything still feels incredibly tense and uptight. Nothing better captures the millennial fatal flaw: project authenticity at all costs, including the cost of your happiness, your sanity, and ironically, your actual authenticity. Well, you only have to watch the abject waste of time and money that is With Love Meghan to know that we're now free to do exactly what we want. Millennial culture is no longer worth having a conversation about. Everything from avocado toast to high-waisted trousers to French tucks to drinking from a jam jar is an utter irrelevance. I suppose at least, if we want to hold a funeral, we know who to ask to do the catering. Thus, another journalist who ordinarily might have been seen to be supportive of This One's Wife pans her programme, giving it another hammering. And this demonstrates quite clearly what the problem is for This One's Wife. She is fucking useless. And despite her attempts to persuade you to the contrary, People have seen straight through it, and review after review, audience comment after audience comment supports this. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.